This podcast is brought to you by B2B Better. Most B2B podcasts rack up downloads, but they never move the needle on pipeline. At B2B Better, we build own media systems that sales teams actually use to close deals. We've helped companies turn their podcasts into revenue engines, shortening sales cycles, improving outbound reply rates, and directly influencing millions in pipeline. So if you're tired of content that looks good on paper, but doesn't drive business results, visit b2b-better.com to see how we do it differently. If the success metric for your show and your content is views, downloads, or impressions, then what you're optimizing for is ego. In this episode of Pipe Dream, I'm going to be telling you about the sleeper metric that you've never even thought about that actually will tell you just how sticky your show is with your audience. Here we go. So I talk to B2B marketers, founders, podcast hosts all the time. And the first question that I ask them is exactly how are you measuring the success of your show? And what I'll often get back is downloads or views if we're talking about YouTube. And I get it because as a metric, it is easy. It's easy to understand. It's easy to justify. You can stick it onto a chart, and as long as it's moving up and to the right, everyone feels good. But I actually think the downloads are a complete red herring for the majority of B2B businesses. Because think of it like this. If you're selling deep sea drilling equipment, how many people are there? How many companies are there out there realistically that would not just listen and consume the stuff you're putting out, but actually buy from you? We're talking hundreds, maybe thousands at a push. And so to be measuring your show with the same metric that Joe Rogan or 20VC or Diary of a CEO are measuring their shows by just feels counterintuitive because there's a ceiling. There's like a pretty low ceiling into how many people you can actually reach with it. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't measure your show and you can't put some quantitative metrics around it. There are actually a few that you can measure it by. And we'll do another episode of Pipe Dream in a couple of weeks where we'll be breaking down a lot of these in detail. But the one that I wanted to talk to you about today is something called consumption rate, or on YouTube, watch time. Now, what are these metrics? These are metrics that tell you about your resonance as a show, right? How sticky you are, how much people actually care about the content that you're putting out. What it is a average of how long your audience is consuming your content before they bail out, right? So are they consuming 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, or the full thing? As a metric, this is far more valuable for 99% of B2B businesses that are running their own shows. Why? Because it tells you about your resonance, right? Rather than your reach. Now, is it better if you're in B2B to have 100 downloads, 100 people who are consuming 80+% of the content that you're putting out, people who actually really give a shit and who are in all likelihood in a position to buy something from you? Or is it better to have 10,000 downloads where they churn out after 60 seconds? I know, having been in positions where I've had to justify my content investment to a board, which one I'd rather take. So where can you find consumption rate? Where can you find watch time? On YouTube, it's pretty easy. It's in your analytics. You can look at it at an episode by episode level. But for podcasting, you need to go into the back-end platforms for Apple and Spotify to find what they call your consumption rate. It's not something that you're going to find in your hosting platform. So what's the takeaway from this episode? If you are measuring your podcast, if you are trying to build a business case to your board to launch your own show, what is the one quantitative metric that you should care about? It's your consumption rate, because that's going to tell you whether you have resonance over reach. All right, so that's it for this episode of The Pipe Dream. We'll catch you on the next one.